Welcome to the Turing test. Today we're diving into one of the trickiest puzzles in tech, bias in AI.
Oh, absolutely, buckle up, because there's a lot to unpack about how algorithms can mirror human prejudices.
Right, and it's fascinating really how systems ingest massive amounts of data from the internet like forums and news sites and then unexpectedly pick
Yeah,
up biases.
exactly. It's a classic case of garbage in, garbage out. Even without explicitly programming in any bias, a machine can learn it all from historical patterns.
You hit the nail on the head. Take, for instance, that notorious case with Amazon's hiring tool back in 2018. It learned to downgrade resumes that mentioned women's purely from past data and eventually got scrapped.
Right. And that really shows that even the best intentions, when fed with problematic data, can lead to major issues.
Yeah, it's like if you build a house on a shaky foundation, the whole thing's doomed to fall, right?
Yeah, true. And even benign data can skew outcomes. For example, image generators like Stable Diffusion have been observed to, well, often depict person walking a dog, mostly as a man rather than a woman.
Exactly. And that's not even about intent. It's just how cultural stereotypes seep into the data sets, creating a cascade of misrepresentations.
So then we get to the crux of our conversation. How do we detect and fix these biases? Is it as simple as running technical audits?
Well, audits help, but they're pretty messy. You need to choose a fairness metric: equal opportunity, demographic parity, predictive parity, and each one tells you a slightly different story.
Right. That sounds like playing whack-a-mole with biases. You fix one thing and another pops up, right?
Exactly. Derek Lieben, in his 2025 book Algorithmic Justice, pointed out that these metrics can often contradict each other. For instance, if you tune a spam filter so groups are treated identically, you might inadvertently allow more scam emails through for everyone.
Yeah, that's a real pickle. And I guess part of it is the lack of sufficient ground truth data. If certain groups are underrepresented in training sets, even the best audits can only do so much.
Right you are. For example, if your set underrepresents, say, women named Nguyen in engineering roles, then rebalancing becomes a challenge. You need extra data, perfectly representative data, but often you just can't get that level of detail.
So then what are the tools on the horizon? I've heard about these counterfactual tests, like changing a label to see if the prediction flips.
Yes, exactly. Think of it like a linguistic A/B test. You change the racial or gender label, and if the prediction changes, you flag it as biased.
Right. And cloud providers are getting in on this too, right? They're shipping bias dashboards that measure disparities in false positive rates and suggest reweighting tricks or post-processing filters.
Absolutely. While it might not be perfect, it's a big step from crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's like checking the nutritional label on processed food. If the vendor isn't transparent, maybe you shouldn't trust it with your models.
Speaking of transparency, what's the state of regulation? I know the EU's been pretty active with its AI Act.
Yeah, the EU's AI Act, finalized in June 2024, basically mandates that any high-risk system, including hiring, credit, education, and policing, has to use relevant, representative, error-free data. It's detailed. You need to document data collection, verify its accuracy, and monitor it over time.
Right. That's some serious oversight. And what about the US?
Well, in the US, there isn't a sweeping federal law yet, but the White House blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights does push for transparency when automated decisions affect people's lives. Plus, New York City has already started requiring bias audits for hiring tools.
Yeah. It sounds like globally, regulators are starting to shape up the environment, even if it's kind of patchwork.
Exactly, it's a mosaic. And these guidelines could really help practitioners be more accountable.
But do you think an unbiased AI is even possible, or are we chasing a unicorn here?
That's a great question. Philosophically, many would argue that bias-free intelligence is an illusion. Any decision boundary, by nature, reflects a value judgment. I mean, even defining fair is messy. Should we prioritize accuracy, equality, or something else altogether?
Yeah, So essentially, every step we take to mitigate one bias might open up another door for a different type, right?
Exactly. It's an iterative process. Think of it like peeling an onion. Each layer might remove some bias, but reveal another hidden one underneath.
I like that analogy. And the challenge becomes even more complicated when you consider that societal norms evolve. What's fair today might not be fair tomorrow.
Absolutely. An algorithm tuned for fairness in 2025 might seem, regressive by 2030. Continuous fine-tuning with transparency reports will become the norm, sort of like software patches we deal with today.
Right. So, what can industry practitioners do amid all this uncertainty?
First off, diversify the teams building these models. There's solid evidence. A Stanford survey once showed that heterogeneous teams catch nearly 30% more fairness issues during model evaluation.
Yeah, that makes sense. More perspectives, more checkpoints.
Then, openness in testing is key. Red team exercises, where external experts probe models for bias, are becoming the industry standard, like what's happening at DEF CON's AI Village.
And documentation plays a huge role too, right? Model cards, data sheets, algorithmic impact assessments. They all force teams to lay out limitations and trade-offs.
Precisely. It's like having an ingredients list on food packaging. You need to know what you're working with. Plus, if vendors won't disclose their audit results or data sources, it's a red flag.
Right. And finally, human oversight remains critical. Fully automated decisions, especially in areas like hiring or loan approvals, can be tempting for cost savings. But having a human in the loop ensures a check on the algorithm's decisions.
Exactly. Humans should definitely have the final say, at least for now. It's a balance, and in many cases, the human element can catch nuances that AI might miss.
Now, I know some critics argue that these measures are just band-aids on a much larger problem. What do you make of that?
I get that point. It's valid to challenge whether technical and regulatory fixes can ever fully offset the deep-seated biases inherent in our data. However, while perfection might be unreachable, these steps move us a lot closer to fair enough.
Right. So, it's really about continuous improvement, not expecting an instantaneous, flawless system, but gradually closing the gap.
Yes, exactly. It's a journey, not a destination. Each layer of mitigation helps, like regularly updating software to patch vulnerabilities.
Yeah. And it seems that the industry is moving in that direction, doesn't it? New tools, better oversight, and importantly, more diverse voices in the room.
Absolutely. With continued efforts in diversified development teams, robust audits, clear regulatory frameworks, and consistent human oversight, we can at least make significant strides towards fairer AI systems.